Hi guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to create a modern realistic dashboard that is very functional, and today you will also learn the logic behind creating dashboards. So I'll be using this invoice management dashboard to demonstrate how you can achieve a very clean dashboard design. So before you start designing a dashboard, it's very important that you understand what you're building. So for this tutorial, we are going to design a dashboard for a product that businesses can use to create invoices, send them to their clients, see which ones are paid, see which ones are not paid, get reminders for overdue payments, download receipts, track money. So we're going to start off by choosing our frame size for this dashboard. I'm going to select a screen size, which is desktop. Just rename this. I will change the background color to something more neutral. So I'll start by creating the menus for our dashboard sidebar. This is the first menu, which is dashboard, and I'm using a 16px font size for this. Then I'm going to change this to our primary color because this is the active menu. I'm also going to bring in the icon, and then I'm going to create an auto layout and give it a spacing of 12. Inside this auto layout, I'm going to create another auto layout. I'm going to give this a spacing of 12 and a spacing of 8. I'm also going to highlight this and set it to fill container. Then I'll highlight this container, give it a fill color of our primary color, set the opacity to 8%, give it a corner radius of 4. Then I'm also going to create another auto layout, close all these spaces, and then highlight the one next to it. So if I expand this now, I'm going to highlight this one. On my keyboard, I will press Command D so that we can get the rest of the menus. I'm just going to remove this fill color background because the rest of the menus are supposed to be inactive, and then change their colors and rename them. I'm going to change the color to the inactive. I'm also going to change it from bold to regular. I will change icon. Then from here we can duplicate more for the rest of the inactive menus. So I'm going to press Command D. So I'm just going to fill this up. Now I'm going to bring in our logo, which is called Inva. What you need to know about creating a sidebar menu, it's very important that you design your elements in groups, like elements that belong together. Just like we have the menus, I made it separate. And because we need like some sort of demarcation, I'm going to introduce like a line, just a straight line. I'm going to give it a neutral color. Then I'm going to put both of them in the same container using auto layout. Give it a spacing of 32. This is another section of the sidebar. We need to do the remaining section, which is usually like the logout section and the help section. I'm going to use this dashboard menu to create the help. Just going to write help, align to the center, set this to the center, set this as well to the center. I'm just going to paste to replace, also change the text color, and then I'm also going to change our background to a more neutral color. Going to use something around this one and then set it to 100. I'm also going to reduce their spacing, probably give it a spacing of 8. I'm just going to add auto layout to the both of them. I'll give it a spacing of 24. You have to merge these two together first before you now put this one to join them. So I'm just going to create this with auto layout using Shift A. Adjust the spacing to 32 and make sure they're all set to fill container. Set this to fill container as well. Also highlight the both of them and put them in an auto layout. The space between this and this has to be like an automatic space so that you can adjust as you want. So I'm just going to set it to auto and then make sure that this is aligned to the center. Then I'm going to set this to fill container. So now I can now extend this as much as I want. So I'm going to give this a fill color of white. Give this a spacing of 20. Open this up. Give the topmost padding 32. While I give the bottom 48. I can just stretch this as much as I want, but you need to know that if you're building or creating a sidebar, let it not exceed 300 by width. Then I'll also come here and create a stroke effect, but just for this side of this sidebar, I'm just going to add a stroke and give it our stroke color. And then I'm going to come to this custom setting and make sure it's only the vertical right side of this sidebar that has the stroke. So I'm just going to bring this into our dashboard. I'm just going to set it to the extreme end, set it to the extreme top. We know that the normal height of desktop is 1024, but your dashboard does not necessarily have to be like that. What determines the height of your dashboard is usually the content, the details. I'll keep it somewhere at 901 is okay. Then I'm going to just stretch this. So the next thing we have to do is to start working on the rest of the dashboards. You need to see dashboard the way you see the home screen of the mobile apps you create. And I'm saying this because it's just somewhere that your user picks up from. Do you understand? It's just somewhere that they get to see things that need their immediate attention, but you're not seeing like the full comprehensive and intensive details. What you're seeing is just basically the summary, or they just show you like a preview. Do you understand? We need a grid for the rest of this section. I'm going to create another frame. So I'm going to change this to another color just to see what I am doing. So I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to make sure that it's the same height. Then extend the width and make sure it gets to the exact place where the sidebar menu stopped. And then you're also going to just stretch it out like this as well. Just give this a fainter color. We're now going to add our grid here, not on the base desktop that carries both this and this, but just this one. So I'm just going to highlight this particular frame, go to the layout guide, and then I'll select columns. So this is going to be 12. Then we're going to set the margin as 40 and the gutter is going to be 24. And we're going to give this a spacing of 16 because I just noticed that they are quite close to each other. So the first thing we need to add here is the top bar. So right now we're going to create our profile. I'm going to just bring this out. Peterson Josh. I'll set it to 16. Then I'll set it to semi-bold. Then I'm going to change the color. We also need our user's email address, but we're going to be using a 14px font size and a fainter neutral color. For less emphasis on this and more emphasis on this, I'm going to add an auto layout between them. Just give it a 2px spacing. Then I'll bring in our avatar, create auto layout as well, and set it to 16. Highlight this and set it to fill container. We're going to bring in our logout and we're also going to bring in our notification icon. Just going to create an auto layout between these two. So I'm going to set their spacing to 24. I'm going to now select all of them and put them in an auto layout. I'll set it to automatic and make sure that aligned to the center. So I'm going to write dashboard. So I'm going to just change the color to black. So I'm just going to highlight everything, put them all in an auto layout container and make sure it's set to auto and aligned to the center. Then I'm going to give this a top and bottom padding of 16. I'll give it a horizontal padding of 32. Then I'm also going to add a fill color which is white. Then I'll add a stroke and make sure that the stroke is just only at the bottom. Then I'm going to change the stroke color to a neutral color that we use as our stroke color. So this is going to be merged here. So I'll also extend this to the end of this frame. But you can also see that the dashboard text and this logout is sort of overflowing into the margin. I'm going to reset my margin to 32. Automatically, that sorts this out. This is what we've done so far. So we'll be creating cards that will enable our users and businesses see their total outstanding, then their overdue invoices. They also need to be able to see how much they've earned this year, and they also need to know the number of active clients that they have. Let me just change this. Our first card is going to be total outstanding. So I'm just going to use a smaller font size, which is 16px for this. So I set this font size to 36px so that it's more pronounced than the title. So I'll create an auto layout, give it a spacing of 8. So I'm going to bring in this icon. So I'm going to just create an auto layout, give it a spacing of 16. Then I'm going to bring in our line, make it 100 and just make sure it's straight. Let's give this 90. I'll change this line color to something more neutral. So it's also important to highlight this and set this to fill container. Then I'm going to select everything and then just give this a spacing of 0 and then set this to fill container. I'm going to create another auto layout to cover this, then just remove the paddings, and then I'm going to expand this, come into the next one after the outermost auto layout, just select it and then duplicate, Command D, Command D, Command D, because we're supposed to have 4 cards here. So I'm going to set it to horizontal. Then I'm going to expand it. I'm going to just quickly change all the wordings. Do this audio invoices. 895, 25,000, just say 104. Then I'll also change the icons. This has to switch to this since they both have similar icons. I'm going to give this a spacing of 32. I'm going to give this a padding of 24. Give this a padding of 28. Then I'll add a fill color of white. Then give this a corner radius of 4 and then add our stroke color. This particular one, I'm just going to remove this line, bring in this card, align it. I'll also make sure that the space between this and this is 24. So the next thing we're going to create for this dashboard is going to be an invoice table, but it's just going to be a summary. It's not going to be detailed since we have an invoice menu. I'm going to create a frame for our table. So I'm going to highlight this frame and add auto layout to it. Then I'm going to make sure this is set to fixed width. I'm also going to make sure this is set to fixed height. I'm just going to bring in my header cell. So it's naturally going to align here. I'm going to add another auto layout to this. I'll select this and duplicate. So it's automatically going to be headed downwards, which is what we want. I'm going to set this height, this one, to 56. Then I'm going to keep duplicating 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm also going to change the text colors. So let's just say blue with media. Then I'm just going to duplicate this into 4 places. I'm going to select this, and this and set it to fill container. Then for this, I'm just going to set this to a fixed width. I want to set it in such a way that it has more space than the rest. This would be amount, status, due date, right? $8,000, 2026. Then I'm going to select this table. I'm going to come to the height of the table, set it to hub, automatically shrinks to fit the height of its content. I'm going to highlight all of this, give it a background color. So I'm going to highlight the table frame and then set this space to 0. So I want each row to be able to have this space. So I'm going to select all the columns and give it a spacing of 8. So I'm just going to bring this in, put it here, obviously here. Then I'll delete this, copy, select, paste to replace. So I could switch this one to disabled, set it to hog, which is also overdue. We need our table title and we need 2 buttons. Create an auto layout between these 2 and set the spacing to 12. Select the both of them. And then I'm going to set the spacing to auto. So we're going to be creating a line, set it to our stroke color, highlight everything and create auto layout. Give this a spacing of 12. So we're going to just create an auto layout for these 2 frames. But before we do that, we'll have to remove the padding, remove the background color. So we're just going to highlight everything and create an auto layout. Set this to 16. Set the padding to 16. Then I'll give this a fill color of white to highlight this. Then I'll give it fill container. I'm going to give this a rounded edge or radius of 4. I'm also going to give it a stroke. Bring this in. I'm going to check this spacing 24. The next thing we need on our dashboard is the activity feed. The user needs to be able to see things like payments, invoice updates. So I'm just going to borrow this, copy. So I'm going to write activity feed and then just delete create invoice. I'm just going to change this icon. This is one of the details of the activity feed, and most times when it's on the dashboard is presented in a very short sentence. So I'm just going to add an auto layout, give it a padding of 16, give it another padding of 16, give it this background color, use a radius of 4. I'm just going to add another auto layout, then select the innermost frame, which is the one with the background, then duplicate it by pressing Command D, and then give it a spacing of 8. So we're going to select these 2 and then add an auto layout. Then I'll set the spacing between the both of them to 16. Add a padding of 16. Then I'll give this a background color of white. Give it a corner radius of 4. So I'm going to just bring this in. That's it. You've created a functional and usable modern dashboard. If you have questions or any concerns at all, please do let me know in the comment section. I'll see you in my next video.